For the generation of people 30 and under, being a creeper, poking someone, or bombing their wall isn't necessarily a bad thing. Welcome to the world of Facebook. It's a wildly popular networking site, but it has its controversial side. The City of Toronto and the Ontario government have banned staff from using it at work, and educators are suspending students because of comments posted on the site. For more on this, we're joined by our technology panel, Jesse Hirsh and Nora Young. Hello to you both. So I guess the reasons why the governments have banned this is because, you know, they call the BlackBerry the crackberry. People just get so addicted to this, and you can waste a lot of time on this. But why do you think it's so popular, Jesse?
Well, I think one of the reasons is peer pressure. It's sort of hit a critical mass that a lot of people, especially if you're under 40, have joined, and they're telling you to join because they're so addicted. They find it so infectious.
Okay, so we moved it to under 40 instead of under 30. Okay, that's fair enough. What do you think?
You know, it's interesting. A psychologist friend of mine was saying that this is very similar to the Pavlovian idea of intermittent reinforcement, where you don't get a new friend every time you go, but every once in a while you get a call for a new friend. And this is the kind of habit that is the most hooky and the most addictive. So I think it's part of that. But it is also a little bit of social pressure when people are saying, especially this language of, do you want to be my friend? You know, you really do. And you have to, even to sort of look at people's Facebook pages, you have to join Facebook. So it's a brilliantly evil kind of marketing scheme from that point of view.
And I just have to say, for all the people out there who've asked me to be a friend, I went on there once and I'm just not all that interested in it. I don't know why, so I've just ignored it. So I'm sure people think I'm a jerk, but that's another issue. Jesse, I want to ask you, because Lisa, who produced this segment for us, she was telling me that her friends no longer call her. They actually just send her messages on Facebook, that no one leaves her voicemail anymore. I mean, this is huge, right?
Well, it's where people are. I mean, I think certainly for young people, it's their primary social space. It's where they're hanging out. You know, they're not going to the five and dime, as it were. They're spending all their time on Facebook. I know for myself, all the different circles of friends I have, it's easier for me to contact them, run events through Facebook, run groups. It's just a really easy to use utility that I think facilitates the type of fragmented social networking we have today.
But what's interesting also about this, Nora, though, when you meet at the five and dime, you're face to face, you're having human contact with one another. Isn't there something kind of antisocial about this socializing behavior?
Well, you know, I think in one way it's a reflection of the fact that we do live in this sort of hyper-mobile society, and people are dispersed, you know, across networks, they're dispersed geographically and so on. And I do think we're moving into this area where we're going to have sort of like an online adjunct to who we are. I mean, that's a sort of extended part of our personality. But certainly I would hope, you know, what I think is interesting is if you're actually deepening your relationships on Facebook and you're missing all the sort of subtle cues that come when you're face to face, like the look in somebody's eyes, that, you know, missing that sense of whether, you know, are they saying they're my friend because they really want to be my friend or because they felt peer pressure to be my friend? There's a certain level of gray emotionality that you miss out on when you're on something like Facebook.
And there is something to say about its addictive nature. I mean, you really can waste a lot of time on this.
Although, I mean, yes, it is addictive, but I question this notion of wasting time. And to go to the example of the public servants who've been denied access to Facebook, I think that's a really foolish decision. On the one hand, treats them like kids, that they can't control their computer usage. But I think governments should be accessible and really have an intimate relationship with the public. And Facebook offers that type of intimacy. I think that's also part of the appeal. You see everything about someone's life, who their friends are, who their pets are, what their interests are. And I think for governments, having access to that type of data at a raw form can be very empowering when it comes to policy.
Empowering, but where's your privacy? I mean, my gosh, you go on there and it feels as though we don't have any privacy anymore. Isn't that a concern?
Privacy's dead.
It's gone.
No, I mean, there are certain constraints with Facebook. I mean, you can make things more limited if you want to, but I think we're certainly getting to the stage where, especially as we go forward into the future, that just becomes a part of your identity, I think, as every bit as much as, you know, the way you cut your hair or the kind of clothes you wear or the neighborhood you choose to live in. It's just an extension of that.
Well, and to build off, you know, Nora's initial flippant comment that privacy is dead, you know, Kelly Gottlieb, who built the first computer in Canada in 1955, has said privacy has been dead since then. Facebook helps us deal with that fact. It empowers us with a type of transparent literacy, so we know what it's like to have no privacy. We know what it's like to have all of our friends monitoring us all the time.
What about, there was the case of a woman who was applying for a job. Her potential employers went on Facebook, looked at her profile and said, nah, based on the profile, I don't know what they didn't like, but we're not hiring you. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a lesson to other, especially young people who are putting way too much information out there They should control that.
Well, yeah, but what about the guy in Montreal? I think he was a journalist in Montreal. Someone basically took his identity and just pretended to be him. I mean, you know, how do you control that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, to an extent you can't. This is part of the problem, is we are leaving traces of ourselves all over the web. And I think apropos of your point, we just have to start thinking, first of all, that, you know, what you do there is public. And if you don't want that to be seen by employers, don't take pictures of yourself drinking at a party and post them on Facebook or whatever. But as far as the data incursions, this is the flip sad side of many cases of identity theft online. Big problem.
Very quickly, last question before we let you both go. What do you think's next? Where do you think we're going next with all of this?
I think in the short term, video. I think Facebook will start, instead of just being a picture of you, it'll be a short film of you. And people will be encouraging to communicate via video, teleconferencing on the internet. And I think it builds upon the reality of seeing who people are. Yes, it's disconnected, but I think that engenders a type of intimacy.
Yeah, and I also think, especially apropos of services like Twitter, we're going to start seeing people doing a lot more social networking, migrating into cell phones, mobile content, all that kind of thing.
Nora, Jesse, always interesting to talk to you both. Thanks very much.
Thank you.